Hi, you guys. Let me just do this. Hello. Sorry, Instagram takes a while to pick up. I hope you guys are having a good Wednesday. For some reason, I kept thinking it was Thursday today. This week is a lot longer than I expected it to feel like. Just let me know if you can hear me. I can listen to the comments. I can read the comments there because I don't see myself moving on the screen. Okay, that seems fine. I hope you guys are having a very good Wednesday. Let me start out by saying y'all have blown up my entire Instagram. Like, I am battling to keep up. I'm an only me person. But I'm so grateful for so many people who have flooded the page. I'm still getting to comments and still getting to inboxes. People have shared such intimate stories with me, heartbreaking stories. And one thing you need to know about me is I understand how intense some of this can be. There's no way that I'm sharing any of your personal stuff with anyone. Let me just clear that up. And then another thing is I'm going to set the tone again like I did the other day. I live in a noisy place. If it's noisy, I'm sorry. I'm just going to talk through it. And then I think I need to reiterate that I don't do hate speech on here. I literally only use one swear word, which is shit, in everything I talk about. So you might hear that. But I don't do hate speech. That hasn't happened. I'm just reiterating because I did get a message that was a bit concerning. However, I don't want to linger too much on this, on all those other extra things. I just want to again say thank you to everyone who's joined. I hope you guys are getting value from this. My inbox is always open for communication, and I'll be sharing some stuff on Friday about how we can actually connect as a community, one-on-ones and group stuff. But I'll let you have more details on Friday because I'm being inundated with those requests. So let's get on to the topic. We're talking about the scapegoat. Now, I've had someone actually ask me, I think it was yesterday, what is a scapegoat? Essentially, in a narcissistic system, the scapegoat is the child that everything is blamed on, right? Or the person that everything is blamed on. So if you understand how an abusive person operates, right? They do not take accountability or responsibility for anything. And the reason why the manipulation that they use is so important for them is because they can manipulate you into believing that you did things that you never did. And that you have to take responsibility for actions they did. So I'm going to give you a typical example. If you're in an abusive relationship and your partner, for instance, pushes you during an argument, what they will say to you is the reason they pushed you was because you had provoked them, and at no point recognize that they have actually crossed a physical line that was never supposed to happen initially. They do this throughout the relationship, during the communications phases, even from the beginning. They find ways to make everything that they do your responsibility, and the reason they do it little by little by little at a time is to see how much you're willing to take, right? How much benefit of the doubt are you willing to hand over? Benefit of the doubt in abusive relationships is a trap, and it's a tool that they use because then they know if you're allowed to give them as much room to do all the things they want to do, that you are an easy target. This is why I said in the previous live that they snuff you out. They essentially want to figure out, like, how much can I use you? And the more room you give them, the more they'll take, right? So the scapegoat in a family, and I'm talking about a family where there's children, is the child who everything is blamed on. So I want to start with something in this area that I don't think is covered in mainstream media and education spaces, but this is something I've witnessed, and something I've experienced, is that the scapegoat child tends to be the child with the most gifting, and there's something usually very, how can I say, something they've been gifted with that they should be doing in this world. They are usually the child who gets this kind of weight handed to them. So narcissists have to operate in a system, right? So if they are married to someone who they are emotionally or physically abusing, that person is their enabler in order to protect themselves. So they give them everything they want, because they're trying to get the narcissist to turn into the happy-go-lucky person who gave me everything in the beginning. Again, so they're working in that cycle, but at the same time, they are training their nervous system. This is how I have to treat this person to ensure I am safe, relatively safe, and that they don't actually further harm me. That whole thing doesn't work. But then there's children. And you can have two types. There's more than two types, but then we're going to focus on the scapegoat, and then there's the golden child. So the golden child is the child who gets all the admiration, the person who the narcissistic parent totes on and gives all the love and affection and attention, doesn't give them the kind of emotional support that they need, because narcissistic people don't have the ability to be emotionally available at all. But then there is the scapegoat child. And this is the child who can go one or two ways. Either they are the one who is the truth teller in the family, who's just like, I don't want to do this. This is too much for me. Why don't you want to be honest? This doesn't make sense. And they are the ones who are usually kind of pushed out of the system. Or the child who is the people pleaser, who has decided, I'm going to stay in the corner for as long as I possibly can, and not necessarily get in the way of your business. But because they are not engaging in the family system, they are also blamed for things that happen in the system. And why this is important to know is, if we talk about the situation from this weekend, and like I said, I'm not talking on behalf of anybody, we can sort of tell how that system is set up, and how the scapegoat person is the one who's having to take the fall for everybody else's bad behavior, right? Because no one else is willing to take responsibility or accountability for their bad behavior. So there's one person who's having to take responsibility for that. The problem with that is, this is the person who carries the family's entire trauma. Because the people who are narcissistic and abusive in the family system don't have the ability to carry the trauma, because shame prevents them from even recognizing that there's trauma that exists. So everything that happens in the family is passed on to this person. So this person either ends up with some serious emotional damage, they end up with a lot of trauma, and a lot of the time they're the ones who end up with the family's mental health issues. So if you saw a family of four and you knew that one of the parents was narcissistic, you'd be easily be able to tell who the scapegoat child and who the golden child is. Now, when someone is the golden child, a scapegoat child, they're not always going to be the scapegoat. The parents can interchange them depending on what they can get from that person at a particular time. The unique thing about the scapegoat person is, they are the ones that get picked on because they give the narcissistic supply in the way of arguments. So abusive people have a tendency to start arguments. They try to rile you up. You have to walk on eggshells around them all of the time, because you never know what mood they're going to be in. You always have to adjust your mood to be to be aligned to their mood. You're not allowed to feel one way and they feel a different way, because their moods is not autonomous from yours. They don't know how to manage their own moods. They don't know how to manage their own feelings. So they expect you to feel like they feel when they feel that way. So anything they are thinking, if it's something they're angry about, something that they want to fight about, you need to align to them. And when you don't align to them, you become the enemy, which makes you an easy target, right? They will pick on you simply because they know you have the ability to protest against what it is they're saying. And for children, this is very dangerous, because as far as narcissistic people are concerned, nothing in the world matters to them more than respect. But their version of respect is very different than the normal version of respect. According to them, everything you say that is not in alignment with what they think or what they believe needs to happen is disrespectful. Your opinion is not important, how you feel is not important, and your existence only is important if it serves them. So anything outside of those lines is disrespectful to them, which is not the actual meaning for disrespect. But they, like I said in the other live, they always have to make themselves the center of attention. So the scapegoat person is the one that they will now start poking. If you watch the video where I spoke about if there's someone in that you know who likes to start arguments early in the morning, in a family system, the abusive parent has a tendency to start arguments every single morning with their child. Even if it's small stuff, just poking them, just like, oh, you don't look good in that. Or, oh no, push them and say, oh, I was just joking with you. But every morning consistently. And the grandiose narcissist would do this more in front of people or more often and make it all a joke. But the vulnerable narcissist can actually go out of their way to do this in private places. So for parents, if you know you are married to a narcissistic person and you are just living in the cycle right now because this is all you can do, one of the things you need to notice when that parent is going away regularly with the child that they argue the most with, because chances are very high that they're feeding that child information that is incorrect, damaging, and abusive. We don't know those things happening. Vulnerable narcissists are extremely calculated. They are not as calculated as grandiose narcissists. They are loud and want to be the life of the party. And when you take the attention away from them, then they become really rude and demeaning. But vulnerable narcissists are not the same. They are very calculated in how they get attention from you. They don't have to be the center of attention in a room, but the second you leave the room, they're going to say something that makes them the center of attention. So they actually have a tendency to isolate people and say things that are harmful, hurtful, and they give you an idea that is actually, in fact, not correct. It's an idea that they want to plant because they know they're going to use it later. They plant seeds of abuse in people's minds. So when we're talking about the scapegoat child, all these things is happening to this person in this family system at all times. And they, if they are the type who are quiet, who just kind of watches everything and doesn't necessarily protest out loud, they don't know what to believe, but they can see the truth. Now, the reason why this is so damaging is because this is the child that is always confused about whether they are wanted or not. One of the major traumatic things that happens to them is feeling like they are not wanted. You can be in this family system and still feel abandoned, right? They are not acknowledged. They are not paid attention to in the ways that they need attention. And the way that the rules are set up in the house based on the narcissist is dependent on the day. So today this will be okay, but tomorrow it won't. To keep the scapegoat on their toes at all times. So they never really know what is coming, right? I wasn't in trouble for this yesterday, but now today I'm in trouble for it, and I'm not sure why. But the abuser or narcissistic person is not going to give you an explanation because this is their house. You need to respect them. You don't get to ask them any questions. I'm sure this sounds like every person who grew up from the 80s because, but there are actually specific nuances that can help you distinguish between whether you're in a narcissistic system or not. A lot of parents just came out of a system where respect was taught to them differently. But there's a very specific difference in narcissistic families because manipulation is very carefully used, not only on partners, it's used on everybody in the home, literally everybody in the home, because that person needs to be the center of attention, as always. So I want to talk about the scapegoat specifically because I think that some of the questions that I've been swirling in the last couple of days need to be rethought, because a scapegoat person is already dealing with a lot of internal emotional issues, right? They don't understand why their family is behaving the way they do. They want to tell the truth, but they're also in a situation where the truth means they get cut off from the family system. They are longing to be a part of that family, but the family only gives them access to them based on how many rules they follow. So they are in a conundrum, right? And being in a situation where everybody's expecting you to say something really puts you in a very, very dark space. We need to really be mindful of what we expect from people without understanding the full situation. We make the biggest mistake by assuming we know everything and don't understand that we are putting people in further harmful situations, right? As a scapegoat person, you are the one who will completely take the fall no matter where the pendulum swings, right? If things end up with the law or whatever, you're going to be blamed for it because you separated yourself from the family. Or if someone gets hurt, then you're going to be blamed for it because you didn't stand up and protect them. The scapegoat person is always in the worst possible position. In my personal opinion, and I don't say this lightly because I know this is not an easy thing to do. Some of us make the decision to jump off the cliff, right? And jumping off the cliff means I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to tell my version of the truth, and I'm going to be really open and honest about where I stand with the situation, whether I'm related to these people or not. Because you have to make a decision whether the bloodline is more important than the people that are getting harmed in the situation. That's a very difficult thing to distinguish, and people are naive enough to think, oh no, you should say something, you should be honest, you should tell everybody what's going on, you shoulda, woulda, coulda. Family is important for everybody. We require other people to survive. We were born to connect and be in community with other people. Your immediate family system, cutting them off is not an easy thing to do, right? This is why when we tell people things like, if you have a narcissistic mother, then you need to stop talking to her, they react like, but she's my mother, or other people say, but she's your mother. I get that, and I get that because you need your mom to be your mom. Whether they're narcissistic or not isn't going to change the fact that that's a longing that the scapegoat person has. That longing is not going to go away because they have an abusive parent. So they need to weigh the decision between the hurt, carrying the hurt for the rest of their lives of not having an available parent because of a choice they made, or staying in that parent's life and choosing to continually be abused for the rest of their lives. It's not an easy choice, and I wish for a second that people will step back and have empathy for people in scapegoat positions, because it is the hardest place to be mentally and emotionally. It puts them in a place where I've actually seen people who go as far as trying to commit suicide quietly. I don't think I'm allowed to say that word online, I'm sorry, but who try to take their lives early because they don't know what to do. They put in the worst possible position. So when we're talking about this in public spaces and when we're talking about this in the media, we really, really need to educate ourselves on how further we can harm someone by pointing fingers at them and expecting them to do something. What they need to do is what's best for them and not what we think is best for them. Because either way, they are going to pay a price. A price that is not even their responsibility. And this is why the scapegoat in a narcissistic family is the one who suffers the most. Because they get to pay the price for the family sins. And also, if they step back for themselves for not doing anything about the family sins, either way, they are the ones who pay the biggest price. The narcissistic and abusive people don't really pay any prices. Unless something bad happens, they get caught and go to jail. They'll find someone to manipulate in jail and make it about them somehow. So they don't really lose anything. But the scapegoat person is so empathetic that they are stuck in the situation of I want my mom to be my mom. I want my father to be my father. I need them. They don't know how to do it. If I try to be there for them as long as possible without really fighting with them too much, are they eventually going to turn around? The same like if someone is in an abusive relationship, or I need to cut these people off because they are toxic for me and they are affecting my mental health, but now I'm alone. And for women in particular, that is a very difficult thing to explain when you're getting married to someone, why you don't have a relationship with your family. How do you explain that without someone who doesn't understand thinking that you have a problem? It's a conundrum. And it's a conundrum that we need to hold space for. There is no way to tie this up in a very neat bow. We think when we're talking about narcissistic abuse that we hit everything right on the nail and it's perfect and we can have a perfect solution for it and wrap it up in a bow. It's complicated and it's complex, and we need to be very aware of the fact that it's our responsibility to hold space for those people and their lived experiences. And we don't want to do that. We just want to point fingers, which I feel like is the biggest mistake. For people in high positions in particular, we don't know what's happening up there. We don't know what it is they're dealing with. So when things blow up, we assume that they have more responsibility than they actually do. Some of these people are not even attached to any of the situation. They just happen to be related to these people. And they have to go through all of the hell because it's their name that keeps coming up. We have to be really, really mindful of what we're doing right now. I get that gender-based violence is huge in our country. I've been saying that, and this is the reason why I have this fight. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we have to stop being human and expect everybody to fight the same way we do. I'll jump off a cliff because I understand where my position is. But someone who's still learning, healing, and growing from the traumatic experiences they had, you can't expect them to do the same thing. And that is why these lessons, why these videos are so important. Because essentially, if we learn to become more human and hold space for other people and their experiences, it's easy first and foremost then to recognize an abuser. But then secondly, we also create communities for healing and for vulnerability. That is why I spoke about the messages that I get on my inbox, because people have chosen to choose this as a safe space. We need to create those safe spaces. One of the reasons why other people don't feel safe enough to come and tell us that they're being abused is because we don't create safe spaces for them. We choose to judge them for picking their abuser, when essentially they didn't pick them. They ended up there because generally the scapegoat is the one who picks abusers to marry. Because it's the only thing that they are familiar with. They haven't lived outside the system long enough to be able to choose differently. And here we have the narcissistic person who is able to check through their radar to see who is a good candidate. They are scouting out here. So I wanted to talk about that because we don't give the scapegoat person enough room. We don't understand how difficult some of the decisions they have to make are. And we don't understand how us throwing stones impacts their emotional and mental health as even more than they already have, have had to experience in their family system. Because they carry the weight of all the family sins, they have an internal battle already from childhood. Why am I being treated differently? Why am I being ignored when something good happens? Why do I have to fight to seem important? Why am I not good enough? That is a big one, right? That comes out all the time. Why am I not good enough? One of the biggest ones is, what have I done wrong that you don't want me? Those are internal battles that scapegoat people have to deal with on a daily basis from childhood. And here we are thinking we know what they should be doing when they're already dealing with a lot. Right? I don't want to get too passionate to this because I really can't get passionate about this. But this is, like I say, every video is just surface level because we don't have the time to go deeper. That will change over time. But if you've been a scapegoat or you know someone who is, we can talk about it in my DMs. But at the same time, I think we all need to just sit and take a step back and recognize that because of the way the world is, and because people are either at one side of the spectrum, don't say anything, keep quiet because this is shameful, or I need to protest and fight for justice, we don't actually look at the people who fall through the cracks. And the people who fall through the cracks who are suffering the most. Because the protesters have a purpose. The people who are quiet are just like, I don't want to get involved in this because I don't want to get into trouble. Then they are the ones who are the actual burden bearers. The people on either side are not carrying the burden. The scapegoat is carrying everybody's burden. And we have to be mindful of the fact that we keep putting them in that position when we are pushing them to make decisions that impact their lives for the rest of their life. We can say what we like now, but if we are someone in a scapegoat position to make a decision and we walk away, they have to live with that choice, especially because it's connected to their family. They are scapegoat to the family. They have to live with it, with whatever decision. You don't think that plays enough on their mind? And then we still want to come and be judge and jury and tell them how they need to live? Guys, we need to be more human. The only way we're going to stop some of these horrible things from happening is if we start going back to how we were originally designed with our humanity intact. This man-eat-man world is killing us. Even in this space. There's competition in this space, which makes me wildly confused. So that's my 2 cents on that for now. I didn't go into too much detail about all the scapegoat child's experiences, but I want to relate it back to what I spoke to the live the other day, because we need to look at this holistically. We can't just focus on one area of this. There are other people who are suffering. Right? There are other people that I see every day who are in this position and don't know what to do. So I hope this live helped you guys. I'm going to see if there's any comments, and then thank you so much for what you have done. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I got such beautiful messages, you guys. Y'all made me cry, okay? Yeah. You have such a calming presence. Your insights are so incredible. Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you know, it's funny that people are saying I have a calming presence. Can I share something personal for a second? I have been always taught that I am rude and disrespectful. Hence the reason why my tagline is the disrespectful empath. So I accepted the role of being disrespectful because apparently I talk in a disrespectful way. But you guys have validated me in a way I didn't even know I needed validation, I guess. In saying that I communicate really well. I didn't realize that, and I appreciate people going out of their way to do that. You have no idea. Because coming from an abusive system, you are taught that the things apparently that I have strengths with are terrible. And that's what I believed. So you guys are awesome. I love you guys. Let's let this community grow. Let's teach more people about these things. And let's educate ourselves a little bit more. And I will see you guys in the next live. Love you.